What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Let's Not, and welcome back to another Pokemon Unite video. Alrighty guys, so as you know, I just put out a brand new tier list talking about all of the Pokemon available in Pokemon Unite for the mobile release, and just giving you guys a snapshot of what the current meta looks like right at the moment of mobile release. And not really accounting for the new balance patch, but anyway, I mentioned that I'll take care of that in that video. But the next thing that I wanted to do is I wanted to take another tackle here at the held items available in Pokemon Unite. There have been a ridiculous number of changes to the held items in Pokemon Unite as far as buffs and nerfs, some that they talk about and some that the patch notes don't talk about. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and jump on into the held items and let you guys know, as of right now, currently in Pokemon Unite, what are the best held items in the game? Where should you guys be using those little 30 level enhancer coins so you don't waste those, because they are pretty rare from what we understand, and what should you be investing your time and energy into? So without further ado, let's jump into the held items. Alrighty guys, so here we are in the held items, and I am going to include the brand new held items, including the Razor Claw, the weakness policy, and the new choice specs. So thank you to LetsNot Gaming. Wait, oh yeah, I made this myself because there weren't any. There weren't any tier lists out there that had the new items in there, so I had to build this one from scratch. But that's okay. We are here, and let's dive into it. Also, just like the video that I made before, I am going to separate the held items into roughly stuff that deals damage, right? Stuff that increases survivability, stuff that works using your ultimate, and then the really miscellaneous stuff. So I will have some chapters in there as well, in case you guys are only curious about, well, I want to know what stuff it makes me tankier, right? What are good tank items, right? But anyway, let's jump into it. So the very first item that we're going to talk about is Muscle Band. So Muscle Band used to be an S tier item without a doubt when the game released, but with the release of Razor Claw, with kind of the prevalence of Scope Lens getting better and better and better, Muscle Band has kind of pulled itself back a little bit. So for those of you guys who don't know, Muscle Band is going to be a held item that makes your basic attacks just hit a little bit better, hit a little bit faster, and it really just has them hit with like kind of an extra % damage. So it's a very good item for physical attackers, and since it affects basic attacks, it can kind of work on special attackers too. But again, you pretty much want to be focused on using this on physical attacking Pokemon, like Cinderace, Greninja, Machamp, Lucario. I mean, some of those Pokemon will actually use different items, but just in general, physical attackers can really make good use of this. Again, there has been a little bit of a shakeup now with Razor Claw being added to the meta, to where now Muscle Band isn't necessarily the necessary item it was before, because pretty much before every physical attacker would be running Muscle Band. It's just that good. And it's, don't get me wrong, it's still a very good item, but Razor Claw and Scope Lens is kind of a new interesting combo that actually outputs a little bit more damage, right? So jumping right into that, we've got Razor Claw. So Razor Claw is kind of an intense item, right? So it gives you just, as far as base stat increases, it's going to give you a little bit of crit increase, but it has this cool effect, right? Where if you use a move, you can get a basic attack through and just get a bunch of extra damage. I think it's like up to like 50% attack damage. So Razor Claw is absolutely stellar item. It's a brand new item, and people are already kind of obsessed with it because it's just, on paper, it's so fantastic. It's such a great item. And I think it's going to be a huge meta staple moving forward. Putting it in S tier just because, again, the meta build right now seems to be, well, I want to be running Razor Claw and Scope Lens, right, as a combo, because Razor Claw and Scope Lens, they both are going to give you a little bit extra crit rate, and they're going to give you some nice attack scaling, some huge attack scaling after using some moves. So especially on Pokemon with like quick move resets, things along those lines, you can get a lot of value off with that Razor Claw. And additionally, if you are in melee range with Razor Claw, you can get a slowing effect on your opponents. So it does a bunch. It's predominantly for physical attackers, though, Razor Claw, as well as Muscle Band. So both of these are going to be physical attacking items. Scope Lens, a little different, right? So it's going to be able to help you get some crits on basic attacks, meaning that it can really work on anything that has crit in their kit. So, I mean, Cinderace has some crit in the kit. I believe we've got Absol has a ridiculous amount of crit in the kit. Like, Absol has always been running Scope Lens. We've got Machamp, who I think has a little bit of crit potential. Garchomp's got a little bit of crit potential. So again, Scope Lens and Razor Claw are becoming kind of this really good combo for physical attackers. So outside of Lucario, who kind of runs specialized builds, and I'll talk about him in a little bit, this is kind of your base now, your baseline 2 picks for your physical attackers is to run the Razor Claw plus the Scope Lens, just because so many physical attackers can make use of those to get that extra crit percent chance, that crit damage, that extra huge 50% attack out of the Razor Claw. So now that we have the numbers for these new items, we can tell that they're going to be very, very good in the meta. One of the other new items that we got was the weakness policy. So weakness policies is a little strange. So basically the way that weakness policy works is you're going to get hit by an attack, and I'm going to put it into B tier for now. Let me explain why, and this one's a little weird. But basically you get hit by an attack, and then you get a few extra percent of attack. And that can stack up to 3 times, give you, I believe, 6% attack, which is okay. But it's kind of a weird condition, because if you're a really squishy attacker or a hit or run, or like a hit and run attacker, like Greninja, let's take Greninja for example, you really can't, you can't really take a few hits, right? Lucario can make use of this, but I think it's kind of an argument within the community right now as far as the players on, does it make sense even for Lucario to run? Because Lucario obviously is a very tanky physical attacker. Things that make his attack go up scale very well with his attack. So again, weakness policy is in kind of a weird place. So it's probably honestly going to be either B tier or C tier. But I'm gonna give it the benefit of the doubt and put it in B. You can think of it as like a B minus right now, just because it doesn't seem like the effect is that huge. Getting hit a few times isn't really the greatest way to trigger your effect. But again, the effect's powerful enough to where I will put it in B tier. We'll leave it there to see how it does, right? And again, all of these items, if you're running physical attackers, are going to be pretty good choices. You know, they're definitely going to be choices that you can get away with, and choices that will help make your Pokemon a little stronger. One thing I will do here as well, let me go ahead actually and add in some words here, because I know that kind of helps to characterize these items. One sec. Okay, we're back. Yeah, so it's actually kind of funny, because when I built the tier list originally, I put those words in there. Maybe I didn't hit the save button. But anyway, yeah, so anything in the S tier I think is going to be optimal for physical attackers in this particular case. And then we've got great, good, niche, and of course bad, right? So there are a couple items that will fall into the please don't use these tier. Okay, so the next things we're going to talk about are going to be more of the items focused on kind of special attackers. And they're all glasses. So we got choice specs, we got wise glasses, and we got like special attack glasses, I think they're called. Special attack specs, something like that. But anyway, so choice specs, it's going to be the newest item added along with the Razor Claw and the weakness policy. And I'm going to toss these right up here in A tier. They just bring so much additional damage, right? So they bring extra basic attack damage, and it scales with your special attack. And it can deal like an extra like minimum 40 damage, right? And then that goes up based off of your scaling with your special attack. It's just a huge buff kind of to what we saw with the wise glasses, which again, the wise glasses still aren't bad, and you may run the specs in combination. Like you may run wise glasses and special attack specs, but again, the special attack, the choice specs just seem better. Just their numbers seem better on paper. I feel like their damage is going to be better. So if you're only picking one special attacking item for a Pokemon, like maybe you're running a Mr. Mime build and you only want to run one of the specs, in this case, something like the choice specs will be your best bet. And specifically on Mr. Mime, getting a big old boost of like 40 to 60 to 80 special attack flat will actually be huge for him, because the way that Mr. Mime works is he relies on giant modifiers to take his overall pretty bad special attack, but he gets like a crazy modifier, makes it do a ton more damage on the move Confusion itself. So moves like that, things like that tend to work pretty well with things like choice specs, anything that kind of gives those flat bonuses, right? All right, the next pair of glasses is going to be the wise glasses. So wise glasses, they're good, but and if it wasn't for choice specs being released, I'd say they'd probably be in A tier, but I'm actually going to put them in B tier, because now they're just a little bit worse than basically what the choice specs are capable of doing. So just as a general rule too, since you guys are probably new to this game, probably coming over from the mobile side, the way that this game works is a little strange. So physical attackers in Pokemon Unite are inherently better than special attackers. And the reason for that is because basic attacks use your physical attack stat. So the first basic attack, physical attack. Second basic attack, physical attack. Third one will use your physical or your special, whatever's higher. But because of that, 2/3 of your basic attacks are always going to be physical, whether or not you're playing a special attacker or a physical attacker. And for that reason, you know, Muscle Band is always going to be a little bit better than something like Wise Glasses, because Muscle Band will get value on every Pokemon, but Wise Glasses can potentially get no value on a physical attacker, right? But not that you'd ever use Wise Glasses on a physical attacker, but there are a couple of niche cases where you might consider Muscle Band on a special attacker, right? And that's why, for example, Muscle Band is better than Wise Glasses. But Wise Glasses, it's great. It's going to give you a flat, 7% boost to special attack. And kind of the way that maths out, at the end of the game with Pikachu having, like, for example, 700 and something special attack at level 13. Again, it works out pretty well overall to just be a pretty good boost to damage, right? So again, it's just a flat boost. The beauty of those is it works from the very beginning of the game, and because it scales with your special attack by a % versus a flat value, it scales very well into endgame as well. So again, Wise Glasses, very solid choice. Then we have finally the last pair of glasses, which are gonna be special attack specs. So we actually, so again, I actually consult other masters every time that we go in and we do one of these tier lists, and we ultimately decided that special attack specs sit in this C tier. So special attack specs are a little bit different. They work in that every time you score, you get a flat boost to your special attack, and that caps out at 6 times, right? So you have to score 6 times, and I think you get something like 18 special attack, right? When you level it up. So it just, the way that it ended up working out is for something like, for most special attackers, you need to score 4 times before you're getting enough boost to beat Wise Glasses, right? And in Masters level gameplay, scoring 4 times for a special attacker, because again, keep in mind, special attackers are usually a little squishier Pokemon, right? You got, Ninetales, you've got Cramorant, you've got Gardevoir, you've got some that are a little bulkier like Venusaur, but for the most part, they're kind of squishy. They die pretty fast. So it doesn't usually make sense to run over and try and get these little tiny scores to boost up the specs to full value. So because of that, because Wise Glasses work straight out of the gate and they scale with you as well, it takes usually around 5 boosts or 4 boosts to make the special attack specs worth it. And that's just not good enough, man, because again, you're barely getting more value than Wise Glasses at that point. And it's harder to get, and you probably, if you're really focused on getting it, you might die doing it. In fact, like you could consider pairing it with something like a score shield to make it easier to score, but if you die, you're dead, right? And you've already given away a ton of experience to your opponents. So again, overall, there's pretty much, most Pokemon should not be running special attack specs. Maybe Mr. Mime, right, can get away with it because he's got a lot of defense. He's very tanky, and he has some interesting builds like with Shell Bell and Energy Amplifier. But for the most part, you won't be running it. I will say though, in casual play, or in quick play where you can get 6 scores super easily, it goes way up, right? So if you're talking in casual play or quick play, it's just as good really as special attacks or as the choice specs, right? So again, in casual and quick play, it goes way up in the tier list, but specifically for Masters level or high level ranked gameplay, it definitely takes a dive just because it's so hard to get those stacks. It's so hard to get those early scores to get it to be better than the Wise Glasses, where you just consider running it over just running Wise Glasses. So I hope that makes sense. I will say the next one here is attack weight. It's the same thing as the specs, except physical attackers are a little bit bulkier, right? And specifically, attack weight can be run very well on Lucario, who is obviously S tier meta. Even with the new balance patch, he's not moving. He's still going to stay S tier. Still a meta character. So attack weight is just better because physical attackers are bulkier. They can score a little bit easier. And Lucario, because the way his attacks, he's like Mr. Mime in that he has really high modifiers, right? So his attack, the flat attack, does better because you take a higher flat attack with a higher modifier, you get more damage. It's basically the way this game does it. You always have 2 things to worry about on a move. You have your base attack and then the modifier to that attack, how much damage it does based on your own attack. Like, does it make it, is the modifier 2 times damage on a move? Is it 3 times, 4 times, right? So that's how this game kind of balances moves with attack values and base stats. So because of that, attack weight is a little better. Just like what I said with specs, casual play, it's definitely up A, S tier, because you can get, probably just A. I probably still wouldn't put it in S, maybe an S for casual, but because you can get those 6 stacks super easily in quick play games or in random matches where people aren't paying enough attention to their goals. But at least in high level ranked, it's good for the bulkier physical attackers. It's very good on the meta build for Lucario, so that's why I'm going to toss this one in B tier. Finally, the next thing we have here is the cookie. Again, like it can work on a Snorlax, it can work on, especially on a Crustle, can run Cookie pretty well, but that's about it. It really only works on tanks. So it just like the just like the special attack specs. I hate that they named it choice specs, special attack specs, and Wise Glasses. There's too many glasses in this game, okay? All right? Just, I'm putting that out there. No more glasses, please. And they all do kind of the same thing. Just because we want to make this as confusing as possible. But anyway, the cookie, it's just going to raise your HP every time you score by a flat percentage. So it works okay. I mean, it works okay on Snorlax. It works great on Crustle. But again, it's not something where you're going to use it a ton, just because those other Pokemon have other things they want to be running, right? Like Crustle, you can be running obviously the Score Shield build as well as the Buddy Berry. But again, in a couple cases on the bulkier Pokemon, Cookie does have value. So I'm going to put that in the niche tier, because for the bulky supports, for the bulky tanks, it can work fairly well. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to talk about here is going to be the Focused Band. So the Focused Band is one of the very few items in this game, probably Focused Band and Buddy Barrier, that you can basically slap on any single Pokemon in the game, and it just will make that Pokemon better. So the way that Focus Band works is it's going to give you some flat special defense, some flat defense, and then every time you get down to a certain HP threshold, over 3 ticks, it's going to restore a % of your missing HP, right? Which is huge, because it can bring you back up around, I think, 30% HP at maximum. But it's a great way if you're in a fight, you need just a little bit more to kill your opponent to help you engage. It can save your life, or if you're running away, it can be the thing that stops you from dying. So Focus Band is great, man. It heals your health, and again, it's going to be good no matter what item you put it on. So or no matter what Pokemon you put it on, physical, special, doesn't matter. No matter what you put it on, it's going to be good. So never really a wasted slot, which is truly an optimal item in my opinion. All right, the next time we're going to talk about is the Assault Vest, which is going to go down here into the super niche tier. It's probably a C-. It's almost bad, but basically the way that it works is that it gives you a barrier that protects you against special attacks, right? So you basically get a little extra bit of health that kind of shows up as almost like a little shield or a barrier, and then anytime you get hit with special attack damage, it takes that down, and then once you go out of combat for a while, you build up that barrier again. So the problem with this is what if the enemy team has no special attackers? And you guys think, well, that probably doesn't happen very often. It does. Because Lucario is so popular, Greninja is so popular, Cinderace is so popular, all of these are physical attackers, right? So it's actually Snorlax. It's not too uncommon where you'll go up against a meta team that doesn't really have any hard-hitting special attackers, meaning that Assault Vest is going to be a completely dead slot. So if you're going up against a lot of physical attackers, which are very, very popular in the meta, because, again, physical attackers are better because their items are better, and the way basic attacks work make physical attackers better. So for that reason, an item that only protects you against special attacks, it doesn't really fit super well in the meta, right? Now, if we ever get to a meta where special attackers are way better than physical attackers and teams are predominantly made up of special attackers, I can see this going up to a B tier and just, being a little bit more meta dependent, but definitely right now in the physical attacking meta, Assault Vest just isn't great. And then finally, we've got a couple more items here in the survivability. We're going to talk about Rocky Helm. It's horrible. It's horrible, man. So basically, the way that it works is every 2 seconds, you can reflect back like 3% of your max HP as damage. It works just like Garchomp's Rough Skin passive. But the problem is it can only activate like every time you get hit by like 10% of your health, right? So an individual hit has to take away 10% of your health to trigger Rocky Helm to do 3% damage back. And that can only go off every 2 seconds, right? So if you're getting pounded by an enemy team, you're not getting full value out of it. And you're only getting full value out of it if the individual attacks are enough to take you down a whole 10% health, right? Which if you're a very tanky defender who's really should be running this anyway, right? This is really an item that should only be run on defenders. Then you might not be losing 10% of your HP in a single hit, meaning that Rocky Helmet's just bad. It's bad on the one thing it's supposed to be good on, which is defenders. And it just doesn't do enough. Like, the effect's just not good enough. So unfortunately, Rocky Helm really does need a rework. They really need to find a way to make it more viable and more relevant so that it's actually decent on tanks, which is where it's supposed to be played, because it just doesn't do it right now. Speaking of bad items, leftovers. The first item they give everybody for free is horrible. Basically, leftovers, it will give you some passive recovery when you're not in combat. Right? So if you're not fighting and you're just sitting around doing nothing, including like if you're not fighting ads, you're not fighting the enemy team, you're just sitting there literally doing nothing or rotating, I guess. After a few seconds, you'll start to recover a tiny amount of HP. It's horrible, man. It's just really bad. There's so many ways to recover HP. You can work back to base. You can have a supporter on your team. You can go stand on your goal. Like, you can eat a berry. It's just leftovers. It really has no purpose. Like, if they want leftovers to be good, the passive healing needs to be 100% of the time, whether whether you're in combat or not. I think that's the only way they can make leftovers good, because right now it feels so bad because you basically have to be doing nothing for it to do literally anything, which is horrible in the current state of the game. Shell Bell, the other recovery-based item in the game. I'm actually going to throw this one up in B tier because it's a little better. So it also gives you some cooldown buffs, which is nice. It actually, as one of its flat bonuses, it decreases all of your moves' cooldowns, which is awesome. And then it increases your special attack, and it gives you kind of a healing effect. So you can heal a little bit of damage, just like it does in the game. When you deal that special attack damage, you can get some health back. So overall, it's a good item, but it's kind of niche. You really only want to run it on very dedicated special attackers with usually with like an energy amplifier build as well, because it's going to allow you to get an ultimate out, get a bunch of damage through, and recover a bunch of damage, kind of leech a bunch of damage back in a way with the Shell Bell, right? So again, I'm going to I'm going to skip ahead to energy amplifier here, which again, energy amplifier, just because these two items are kind of like a meta build when run together on stuff like Gardevoir, Pikachu, and Cramorant. So all of those special attackers that have really, really game-changing ultimates can make use of this combo really well. An example is like Pikachu, you can use an Electro Ball. Then while the Electro Ball is flying in the air, you can activate your energy amplifier, get off your ultimate, fire off another Electro Ball, and then all of those are going to have the boosted damage from Energy Amplifier. So Energy Amplifier is after you use your ultimate, it boosts the damage. It boosts up your damage with your moves and everything else that you're doing for a short time, right? So you get a huge damage boost after you use your ultimate, right? So Gardevoir, you use your ultimate to trap them all in one place, then you hit them with a Future Sight or a Psyshock and just get a ton of damage off. Pikachu, you got that Electro Ball combo after you use your giant lightning bolts. And then finally, I get all set on Cramorant. Obviously, it works super well on Cramorant because Cramorant, basically he goes stationary and just hits everything with his basic attack. Now, all of your basic attacks on your ultimate are boosted by the energy amplifier. Your Shell Bell is getting you HP back, so you're not just getting killed because you can't move when you're using your ultimate. So there is a really cool combo here if you really like Pikachu, Gardevoir, Cramorant, other Pokemons with really impactful alts that can really guarantee your moves will do very well. There's a great combo there for those special attackers. And then the final thing on those special attackers may be something like, for example, the choice specs, right? Can work super well. But then we also have the Score Shield. So Score Shield, I'm going to throw that right here in B tier. It works on very tanky Pokemon. So the way that Score Shield works is that if you're really tanky Pokemon, when you're scoring, you basically get a shield proportional to your HP when you're scoring, so that anybody attacks you, they have to break your shield first, and then they can hurt you. And then they can stop you from scoring. So you have that shield just allows you to score. The crazy thing about Score Shield, though, is it works with other shields. So Lucario's shield that he gets from Steadfast, it combos with that. Crustal's giant shield that he gets from his ultimate, basically a giant Crustal with Score Shield, you cannot stop him from scoring when he has his ultimate up, because his shield is like 80% extra of his health, which is already massive as just a giant health bar. So again, it works super well with a couple Pokemon. It basically guarantees the score, and it can help guarantee your score if you are running something like a Cookie, right? Or an attack weight, something along those lines. So on super bulky Pokemon, it's actually a great tool. On not super bulky Pokemon, it's basically useless. Like you run this on a Greninja, you get this tiny little Score Shield in proportion to your max HP, and it probably is just going to get you killed. So again, only use it on bulky Pokemon who have a reason to score. It can combo, like I said, pretty well with Cookie on some of those bulky Pokemon. So again, not a bad tool if you are running one of those Pokemon. Now, the next time we're going to talk about is Buddy Barrier. Buddy Barrier, like Focus Band, is something that you can run on any Pokemon in the game, really, and just get insane amounts of value. Just because Buddy Barrier gives you and another teammate like a massive, I think it's like a 40% HP shield. It's either 20 or 40. I think it's 40% HP shield when you use your ultimate to you and your lowest HP teammate. Which is just huge. That Buddy Berry shield, it can also work with that Score Shield from before, but it's just so huge because you use your ultimate team fight, you get a big old shield, your teammate gets a big old shield, and it can really turn the whole fight. It's an item that can literally be used on just about any Pokemon in the game, just because it has so much potential to swing a team fight, and you'll see a ton of Masters levels players running this item on basically everything. It's just that good. The shield is just so huge. When in a game that gives you small percent buffs, like 7% on Wise Glasses, getting a giant 40% buff, even just for a short time, is huge because that buff is coming at the most important time that you could possibly need it, which is going to be when you're using your ultimate, which probably means you're in the middle of a giant team fight anyway. So the power it has to swing Dreadnought in your favor, to swing Zapdos in your favor. You want to have as many of these on your team as possible. And then finally, we have the super weird kind of niche items. So experience share. Experience share is a little weird. If you have the lowest experience total on your team, you get extra passive experience gain. So like how everybody kind of gains passive experience, it kind of like doubles that passive experience gain, but only if you have the lowest level on your team. So you really can only run this on defenders, like things like Eldegoss, and only if you're in a 5-stack, because the reason I say that is because then you can kind of guarantee you'll be the lowest level. If you're trying to solo queue with an experience share and you have a really bad player on your team who doesn't know what they're doing, then they might be a lower level than you, and your experience share is just going to be a dead item in slot. So really only run this if you're going to be running a support who's not dealing any damage, not on Mr. Mime, so like Eldegoss, Blissey, if you're going to be doing very low damage, then you can get away with it kind of, as long as you're just helping whatever your teammate is to farm up level. So like if you're, for a good example of this is if I'm an Eldegoss and I'm going bottom lane with a Garchomp, right? I can run bottom lane with Garchomp, let him have every single kill on all the ads so he levels up faster, and then I'm just getting the extra passive experience from experience share so I don't fall too far behind the team. Like that's one of the use cases where experience share can work. And then finally, Floatstone. And Floatstone's kind of a goofy one, because when Floatstone first came out, everybody thought it was going to be the buy-all, end-all best item, because movement speed is so huge in a meta. So like at the early days of the game, everyone's like, wow, this thing is great. It's S tier, movement speed, yes. And then we found out it kind of sucks. So it kind of sucks because it gives you like 10% movement speed, which is kind of low for a MOBA. Like a lot of games like League or something will give you way more than 10% movement speed. And you have to be out of combat for like 8 seconds before this thing does literally anything. So like the only time you're ever gonna get value out of this is like rotating between like the bottom and top of the map as a jungle. And that's like just so little value. Like the amount of time that it's the amount of uptime it has in a match is probably less than a minute. It's just, you get so low value for such a little effect that ultimately Floatstone, well, yes, on a couple junglers, like maybe like Gengar or something, there is a little bit of value there. But it's just you're almost always going to have a better option to run, like Buddy Barrier or Focus Band, something for survivability. It's just, if you really need to be fast, it can give you a tiny bit of value in the game, but the value it gives you is so low. So for most of the time, you should be avoiding it. But that's it, guys. There is the tier list. Just one more thing I want to talk about, the level 30 item enhancers. Feel free to, use it on anything in A tier and S tier, but it does do a little bit better on certain items than others. So every item in the game, to be maximum kind of effectiveness, needs to be level 20. From level 20 to 30, the gap that you gain is actually not that high. But certain items do way better at level 30 than 20. There's actually only a few. Scope Lens, because of the way that its scaling works with critical hit and critical damage, makes it very good. It makes it a very good choice to level 30. Energy Amplifier and Shell Bell. Again, because of the way their move cooldown percentages keep going up, and just everything on Energy Amplifier as far as its base stats is a percentage. And base stats are the only thing that increase, by the way, from level 20 to 30. The main thing it does not increase at all from level 20 to 30. So all we really care about is base stats, which is percent crit damage. We got percent cooldown here, some extra healing, special attack. We got everything here is about percentage on Energy Amplifier. So these 3 items, Scope Lens, Shell Bell, and Energy Amplifier, all do better at level 30 than 20 if that's what you really care about. Otherwise, like, you really can't go wrong with any of these items, right? Any of these items are fine. Anything in the S tier and the A tier that you use a lot of are going to be fine choices. So anything from the A tier, S tier are going to be a fine choice for your level 30. Most of these will stay good probably throughout the course of the game unless they get major nerfs. And then like just a special shout out to Shell Bell and Energy Amplifier as also being good choices to go level 30 instead of level 20, because the jump from level 20 to 30 is exponential. It takes a long time to go from level 20 to 30. But I hope that helps, guys. I hope that helps answer the question of, what items are currently the best in Pokemon Unite, and helps clarify that with the current state of the meta, what I think is going to be really good, and including the new items in there to talk about, again, what items you guys should be focusing on. Now, again, certain Pokemon use certain items, certain builds. If you guys have any questions about what's the best build for Lucario or what's the best item build for Greninja, definitely hang out, answer those in the questions. And if you see any answers from me or from another user named Catch, who's another Masters player that helps out in the comments sometimes, you'll know that those are going to be good tips. So feel free to take those and run with them. So, all right, guys, but that'll be it. Thank you so much, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.